Nothing changed around him. His feet are still in the mud. The hogs are all around him. They're snorting and slop is everywhere. Nothing changed around him. He was still in a far country. He was still separated from his father. Nothing changed around him. Still had on the same clothes, still smelled like slop, still had gnats and flies flying all around his head. But the turning point wasn't when the flies left. It wasn't when the gnats left. It wasn't when the clothes changed. It wasn't when he left the hog pen. He didn't have to change his geographical location. All he had to do was change his mind.
This is the potter's touch.
Because you can only prosper effectively off of what is in you, then you have to spend off of what is authentically yours, not what you manipulated into your reach, because it's going to come and go. People come and go, they change on you, you can't count on them. But if you start from your core, that's something stable you can really count on. The other thing I think is important to realize, you can't spend out of your core if you don't invest in your core. You have to invest into what you have, what you legitimately have. What are you gifted at? What are you inclined to? Where are your passions? And then to put the greatest effort and the greatest energy and the greatest resources right into that sweet spot of something you can manifest, something you can deliver, some area. The very first thing that God says to me, the very first thing is to say, be fruitful. And we read it and we walk on. We don't realize that to be fruitful means that you have to discover your seed. He didn't ask him to produce a cow or a goat. You can only be fruitful according to the understanding of what is in your core, okay? That's what you're gonna be working from all of your life. And so the more we can help people to discover what's in their core, what they are instinctive about, what they were created to be, the more you'll see a change in how they end up.
If you think of your mind as the steering wheel, okay, that determines the direction of your destiny in life, then we are transforming our lives by the way we turn our mind. You're gonna throw your mind at it. It is no accident that you came into this world head first. If you quit drinking, you're gonna do it in your head before you do it in your body. If you decide I'm not gonna be promiscuous, it starts in your head, not your body. If you decide I'm going to go back to school or change my career, it starts in your head, not your body. If you decide I'm getting out of debt, it hits your head before it hits your wallet. If you decide you're gonna lose weight, do you not know you're gonna get skinny in your head before you get skinny in your body? Look at somebody and tell them, I got a skinny head. It may not have hit my body yet, bless God, but in my head, I'm a very thin, fit, healthy, vivacious, outgoing, and might I add, good-looking individual. Isn't that weird? If it doesn't start in your head, it almost doesn't matter what's in your body. You can lose weight in your body, but if you have a different image in your head, you can become anorexic in your head and never be satisfied with the changes in your body, because whatever's going on in here, that becomes your reality. You can be as pretty as a picture, but if you see yourself as ugly, you'll never embrace yourself. It's a head thing. So when you start changing, the apostle in Romans is teaching that you transform your life by the renewing of your mind. And we're simply using the apple as a metaphor to say, you can't change the peelings, you gotta change the core. Because the goal is to take the apple and bring it to a place that it is transformed into a tree. And there is no life in the peelings, and there is no life in the apple, there's only life in the core. And that's true of you. Change your clothes, change your hair, change your name, change your title, change everything else you want to, but if you don't change from the core, there is no change at all. And so if transformation is going to start by identifying your core, you're only going to be transformed to the degree you were created. You cannot take an apple seed and transform it into a tomato. It's not going to happen. No matter how much you like tomatoes, need tomatoes, if you get down to the seed, if the seed is an apple seed, all you can do is transform it into the highest, best expression of itself. It can turn into an apple plant, it can turn into an apple blossom, it can turn into an apple tree, but it can't turn into chicken salad. So there are some things that you may be trying to turn into that are not central to who you are in your core, who you were created to be. And you will frustrate yourself trying to be something that is adverse and opposed to what you were created to be. In fact, what God says, he says, I want you to be transformed by the renewing of your mind, Romans 12:2, that ye may be able to prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. He said, I want your life to prove what God had in mind, perfect will of God, when he made you. I want you to shine at what you were created to be. I was teaching in Washington. I asked him something. It's kind of shocking for a preacher to ask, but I asked him, and you know, I can be shocking at times, so brace yourself. I asked him, what turns you on? And they acted just like you did. Phony. I said, what? Don't answer out loud. Too much information. But I am scared if you can't answer. It's scary to me if you've lived this long and you haven't figured you out. And yet I know that there are people in this room that cannot answer that question on any level. Not personally, not professionally. The same way you ought to be able to answer that question in its most intimate connotations, you ought to be able to answer that question professionally, so that you do not apply for things that don't turn you on or enter into relationships that don't turn you on and spend the next 10 years trying to change somebody into something that they are not. You need to understand what works for you. So you only put your efforts in the areas that are central to your core and who you are. The problem with most people is that you're so busy trying to know everybody else that you have not known your. And the reason you're having problems with your relationships with other people is that you do not have a healthy relationship with yourself. So you don't know what to draw to you, and you don't know what you need. And so when you don't know what you need, you are picking people by the peelings. Oh, you're not going to talk to me. You are picking people by the peelings, and you never get down to the core. And if the peelings look good, you reach out and snatch something that is not central to your core because you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you don't know who to pick. You don't know where to work. You don't know what business to go in. You keep going into business chasing money, but you ought to chase purpose, because if you find your purpose, you're going to find your prosperity. You may have spent the first 20, 30 years of your life in peeling positions, peeling people, peeling jobs, peeling positions, going after things that appeal aesthetically doesn't mean that it is harmonious and central to your core. Because if you do it from your core, you're going to be comfortable. If you do it from your core, you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be challenged, but you're going to be comfortable. It is going to be within the realm of your DNA to perform what is expected of you when you are central to your brand. If we were a business and we had a brand is a promise to the consumer what to expect when they go to that facility. Like KFC says, we do chicken right. That means if you want turkey, don't come up in here. They are clear about what they do right. Could it be possible that you have spent most of your Christian life focusing on what you do wrong rather than developing what you do right? All of your energy, all of your prayer life, all of your focus is in fighting what's wrong in you rather than focusing on what's right in you.
Still to come on The Potter's Touch.
Where you spend your time and where you spend your money tells me what's valuable and what is your priority in life. And you are where you are today between how you handle your money and how you handle your time. And if you handle your money and you handle your time in alignment to your urges rather than investing in your instincts, then that is why you are where you are right now. Successful people invest their time instinctively rather than following their urges. There's a tree inside of this apple, but it'll never reach best expression of itself if it's not transformed.
Reach new levels in Bishop Jake's Transformational Instinct.
Everything that ever held you back, tell your neighbor, I gotta throw it behind.
It's about change.
Mind-boggling.
Get to the core of who God created you to be. Receive Transformational Living on CD when you help us reach others with your gift of any size.
All I gotta do is pull my hands off of things and anchor myself on who I am. And though the storms keep on raging, if I have found my core, I have anchored my soul.
For your gift of $70 or more, you will receive the entire Transformational Instinct series on DVD. But when you sow a gift of $140 or more, you will also receive the Instinct wall hanging and Bishop Jake's profound new book, Instinct.
This is the year that pushes you into the next dimension.
Transformation begins now.
Talk to women who are called to go into the next dimension.
Register today for Woman Thou Art Loose 2014 at WTAL.org or call 1-800-BISHOP-2.
God's provided everyone gifts. And if we look within inside ourselves, there are gifts. We just have to listen.
It made me think to go deeper inside myself, to really see what I have and possess and learn how I'm going to use it and utilize it to the best of my ability.
I'm thankful. I'm renewed and I'm empowered.
I wanted to find the difference between urges and instinct. It was an urge that made him want to leave home. A flesh urge, a craving for control and recognition. We all have urges. And the urge led him out of the Father's house, out of God's will, out of his purpose, away from his core values, away from his brand. Urges always deplete you. Urges, temporary impulses, cause you to make permanent changes that disrupt the most valuable things in your life. Urges makes withdrawals. Instincts make deposits. He comes all the way down to the hog pen following his urges. There are people in this room right now, you have been spiraling down, 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 and praying all the way down and can't figure out why. You're praying right, but you're being led by your urges and not by your instincts. You sowed a special seed But then you went to work and flipped out on your boss because you have your mother's temper, and your urge to get the last word is destroying your economic opportunities. And even though you pay your tithes, you're going down because you're being led by urges and not by instincts. You can be praying one thing with your mouth and being led by something else in your life and trying to figure out why prayer is not working. Prayer isn't working because urges are driving the car. And on an urge, the prodigal son got a wild hair in him and said, give me the portion of goods that falleth unto me. They divided unto them his living, and he began to spend his substance in riotous living. Spend, urges make you spend. Spend yourself, spend your energy, spend your time, spend your charisma. You're spending more and gaining less. Urges will always make withdrawals. They will not make deposits. Until finally he bankrupted the hog pen and got down to the hog pen and had come down to absolutely nothing. And he could tell that his urges were driving him down by who he was comfortable to be with. If you don't have the courage to assess your own account and see where you are in terms of depletion, look at who you are comfortable to be with, and it will tell you where you are. If you have gone from the Father's house to fellowship with the hogs in the hog pen, look at your buddies, because your buddies are a picture. Oh, you look uncomfortable. Of where you're at. I'm telling you right now, I can tell everything I need to know about you if you let me have your cell phone. Who do you spend your time talking to? Is it building you? Is it depleting you? I'm gonna get off of that. It's just urges. Y'all, I don't want to make you any more uncomfortable than you already are. How much time do you spend with them? What are you talking about? It'll show me something about your value. Then if between your cell phone and your credit card, I don't even have to meet you. Because where you spend your time and where you spend your money tells me what's valuable and what is your priority in life. And you are where you are today between how you handle your money and how you handle your time. And if you handle your money and you handle your time in alignment to your urges rather than investing in your instincts, then that is why you are where you are right now. Successful people invest their time instinctively rather than following their urges. When you get down to that seed gut level of this is who I am, that's what you can build on. Nothing changed around him. His feet are still in the mud. The hogs are all around him. They're snorting and slop is everywhere. Nothing changed around him. He was still in a far country. He was still separated from his father. Nothing changed around him. Still had on the same clothes, still smelled like slop, still had gnats and flies flying all around his head. But the turning point wasn't when the flies left. It wasn't when the gnats left. It wasn't when the clothes changed. It wasn't when he left the hog pen. He didn't have to change his geographical location. All he had to do to have a new year was change his mind.
You know, changing your perception is in essence changing your reality, because your reality is often based on your perception. And it opens up the dialogue of realizing that your perception is not the only view in which you can look at a situation. And I find the broader you are in the way you see a thing, the more effective you are at handling the thing. The reason most people get into so much trouble is that they think that the way they see it is the only way to see it. So whether you're talking about a marriage, or whether you're talking about a business, or whether you're talking about a piece of property, or whether you're talking about staff development, or whether you're talking about sales, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. The more you are able to transform your perception and see other people's perspectives, the more effective you are at whatever you do.
I want to know what is on the other side of your fear. You'll never know. You'll live and get old and die and miss the life that Jesus came to give you simply because you are not willing to break the rules. If I'm talking to somebody, say something to me. Now, let's model creativity once again. Our model says that you need to challenge your perception. And here comes her escort to take her where she has never been before. And it all begins when you challenge your perception. Your perception can block in your creativity. We get used to observing things in a particular way based on our interests, needs, biases, values, and past learning. People with strong perceptual sets are prone to quick decisions and conclusions rather than looking for alternatives. You don't look for alternatives because you think that the way you perceive it is the only way it is. If there were one thing that has destroyed more marriages than anything else, it is that point right there. To think that your perspective is the only way to look at it, it's what limits you from seeking other perceptions of your situation. Yeah, to perceive that you know how your child is stops you from looking any deeper to see them in light of a different perspective. I am saying to you that you need a different perspective on your situation. Because when you get a different perspective on your situation, you get a different perception of how to deal with that situation. Perspective, perception. It depends on my perspective, my perception. The room looks this way if I look over here. But if I get over here and change my perspective, I look at the same room and get a different perception. Wonder if your narrow-minded perspective is affecting your perception of your situation. Look at it again. Look at the budget again. Go back and stare at it. Lay it all out in front of you and look at it again. Look at your situation, write it all down and look at it again. There is something else to be seen in what you see. I am challenging your perception. If I can get the idol of your opinion to fall off the throne, you could have a new life in your old house. If you will dethrone your opinion, you could have a new life in your own house. I'm wondering if your perception of your job is making you miserable. Because if I remember correctly, there was a time you were singing about it, happy about it, shouting about it. You're at the same location with the same people. Some of you have even gotten a couple of raises, but because your perception has changed, your perspective of what used to be a blessing now becomes horrible. Have you ever seen people who didn't appreciate you until somebody else wanted you? Keep going, just sit there. I'm gonna teach this till you get it. And all of a sudden, when somebody else comes along and starts paying you some attention, all of a sudden they get a whole different, I once was blind, but now I see. Just something to think about. I got a diagram that I want you to take a look at, and just look at that and tell me. A centerpiece. Somebody said a vase. Somebody said a face. Two faces. You sure it's not a vase? How many see a vase? How many see two faces? Oh. How many of you, as you continue to stare at it, you see both? If you continue to stare at your life, what else would you see in it?
Hey, we'll be right back after this.
There's a tree inside of this apple, but it'll never reach best expression of itself if it's not transformed.
Reach new levels in Bishop Jake's Transformational Instinct.
Everything that ever held you back, tell your neighbor, I gotta throw it behind.
It's about change.
Mind-boggling.
Get to the core of who God created you to be. Receive Transformational Living on CD when you help us reach others with your gift of any size.
All I gotta do is pull my hands off of things and anchor myself on who I am, and though the storms keep on raging, if I have found my core, I have anchored my soul.
For your gift of $70 or more, you will receive the entire Transformational Instinct series on DVD. But when you sow a gift of $140 or more, you will also receive the Instinct wall hanging and Bishop Jake's profound new book, Instinct.
This is the year that pushes you into the next dimension.
Transformation begins now.
I want to talk to women who are called to go into the next dimension.
Register today for Woman Thou Art Loose 2014 at WTAL.org or call 1-800-BISHOP2. Get up close with TD Jakes Ministries at tdjakes.org. Connect with us anywhere, at any time.
If you haven't been hanging out with us on social media, you've been missing it. I'm there for you, ministering, sharing the word of God, encouraging you, and sometimes answering you. Yes, it's me personally. Come on over to social media. Hang out with me. I've got something for you that will really bless your life.
Talk to us on Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Connect with us today.
We hate to part at this point. There are so many more things that we'd like to say or do, but because of the fact we're out of time, we have to go. I pray that God's grace and anointing would keep you and that heaven would smile upon you, and I look forward to the next time that you and I can just hang out together. Same time, same station. I'll be here for you.